Good evening. I want to welcome you and call to order this meeting of the Floresville ISD Board of Trustees for this date, June the 26th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. Let the record show that there is a quorum of board members present. Myself, Joel Odom, Ms. Bonner Reed, Mr. Stephen Shadrach, Mr. Marshall Fleer, and Mr. Craig Moots. Furthermore, let the record show that this meeting has been duly posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Mr. Shadrach will now lead us in prayer. Let's stand together and followed by Mr. Moots leading us in the pledge.
Everyone, please bow your head. We ask that you guide our school board, administrators, and community with wisdom and support for all of our students at the board meeting tonight. We thank you for another successful year, and we look forward to next school year with excitement for growth of our students and educators. Please provide reflection and relaxation for our educators during the summer break and time with family for our students. Please look over our students and family for those traveling during the break and ensure their safe return. Lord, we know that every student is special at FISD and is proud to provide the foundation for lifelong learners and leaders they will become. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
I will now recite our FISD vision and mission statement. The FISD vision statement is character, knowledge, confidence. Our mission statement is FISD is committed to the development of innovative, lifelong learners who possess character traits to achieve personal and professional success. Mr. Fleer will now recite our FISD goals.
The FISD goals are excellent student outcomes, superior workplace environment, exceptional customer service and community engagement, strategic resource management.
We will now do a round robin of the board reciting of the FISD core beliefs. Mr. Shadrach, would you lead us, please?
Well, all students feel safe and supported in a developmentally and academically challenging environment.
Families are welcome partners in their children's education.
Faculty and staff are compassionate, dedicated, adaptable individuals who are student-centered.
Campus leadership is fair, equitable, and clearly communicates and engages with stakeholders.
Superintendent and central administration lead with integrity, transparency, and clear communication to provide a well-resourced educational environment.
Trustees provide student-centered and fiscally responsible leadership and transparent and ethical support of all stakeholders.
Each month we highlight one of our good governance indicators, and I will be reading these to you, and also our code of ethics that the FISD Board of Trustees follow to promote the best interest of the district as a whole. This month with the code of ethics, we are highlighting commitment to service. I will focus my attention on fulfilling the board's responsibilities of goal setting, policy making, and evaluation. I will diligently prepare for and attend all board meetings. I will avoid personal involvement in activities the board has delegated to the superintendent. I will seek continuing education that will enhance my ability to fulfill my duties effectively. Our good governance indicator for this month is the board monitors strategic plan implementations and district success in a formal, scheduled manner. All right, Ms. Petrie, do we have any public comments?
Yes, sir, the three there.
All right. The board encourages comments about the district from members of the public. Anyone who has signed up to speak in advance of the meeting in accordance with the board procedures may do so at this time. The board asks that each participant's comments pertain to district business and be no longer than 2 minutes. Due to the large number of individuals, we got 3 tonight, and I would like to give them 3 minutes, Ms. Petrie, each, okay, for tonight. Remember that the board may not discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on our agenda. In addition, the board has adopted policies to provide prompt and equitable resolution of complaints and concerns for employees, students, or their parents, and the general public. Copies of our district policies and procedures are on public comment, and filing complaints are available, of course, at our website. At this time, I'd like to call Ms. Gamble up, and she will come and share with us.
Good evening. Thanks for having me, Mr. Superintendent and the Board of Trustees. I did email you prior to this meeting because I thought I was at 2 minutes. I was pretty worried about being able to be brief enough to get everything covered in 2 minutes. So I trust you received my email. First off, let me say thank you for all that you do for our children and for the community. Personally, I've spent the last 17 years of my career working with children, teenagers, children in public and private schools, medical settings, residential facilities. I'm very familiar with the many challenges that we face in caring for our youth and for putting their needs first, and I applaud you for what you're doing. However, my appeal to you tonight comes not from my professional role, but from my personal role as a mother, which I take, it's incredibly important to me. The education of my daughter and her safety are paramount in every way. But the district's proposal to implement this drug testing of all children who participate in extracurricular activities or park on campus is what really has me concerned. My spouse and I attended both of the community forums on this topic. We were there. And in those meetings, the overwhelming majority of parents who spoke said that they were not in favor of this. There was lots of different reasons outlined. Parental rights, student privacy, fairness, allocation of funds. Allocation of funds, that's a big one for me for sure. I want to make it clear, nobody there was saying that they don't care about their child using drugs. Nobody is for that. That's a no-brainer. No parent wants their child to be mixed up in drugs or abusing alcohol underage. However, many of the parents there felt that the drug testing of students is an example of overreach, institutional overreach, and quite frankly, not the district's place. And that's where I agree. Together with my husband, I am responsible for parenting my child, not the district. That's not your job. I very much appreciate the job that y'all do, but parenting her is my job. It's our obligation to ensure that she's not engaged in dangerous activities, including the use of drugs and alcohol. If we elect to drug test her, that's our prerogative. That's what we would do personally. I assert that such testing would be a private and personal matter that falls squarely within the rights of parents to raise their children as they see fit. As a society, we collectively find ourselves in the position of having to push back firmly against institutional policies and procedures that remove our rights. One way we assert ourselves is by electing others to represent us. And that's what we've done. We've elected a school board so that they may vote according to our wishes as constituents. So respectfully, I have to ask, which board members were in attendance at those forums? Were you listening? Did you hear us? You asked parents for input. Are you going to vote according to the input that was provided to you? Because we were there, we heard it. In light of these issues, I strongly urge this board to vote against this proposal, as it does not align with the district's commitment to be responsible leaders in transparent and ethical support of all stakeholders. The stakeholders told you what they wanted. It's your turn to listen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gamble. We'll take those comments into consideration. Now, the second one is Mr. Gamble.
Thanks. Again, I want to thank y'all for doing what's right for the kids and trying to protect them and do what's best for them. That's really important, and I appreciate being able to talk to you tonight here as well. Again, I'm here to voice my concerns regarding the random drug testing program, and I feel that this program is a highly volatile one that can have many unintended consequences as well. The board needs to recognize that this program could easily lead parents to sue the district due to a violation of their parental rights and a violation of their child's right to privacy. In addition, parents could raise legal issues related to the district having unknown people monitoring their children, some as young as, it seems like 11 or 12 years old, as these urine samples are provided. When these suits are filed, not only will it look bad for the district, but it will also cost the district a lot of money in legal fees. It won't matter if in the end the district prevails, because the money defending against the suit will have already been wasted. So something that seems like it might be inexpensive now may not turn out to be inexpensive in the end and take away funds from where it's truly needed to be, which is for the kids. When countless hours of attorney's fees are paid, it's going to cause, it can cause a lot of strain to an already thin budget, as you guys are well aware, I'm sure. So ultimately, it is your responsibility at the school board members to ensure that our tax dollars are appropriately allocated to the education of our children. And please think hard about this obligation before voting on this proposal. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gamble. Take those comments into consideration, and the next one is Dora Alonso.
Hi, Dora Alonso. I'm a mom to a kid at the district, alumni myself. I was able to attend both forums, and while most of my questions were answered, I was left with many concerns regarding this program. The moment I found out that the school district was considering this idea, I did my own research, read through multiple studies by various universities, and they all found that mandatory drug testing has no positive or negative long-term effects, rendering it ineffective. Another factor that we need to take into account is that many studies have also shown that the kids who need help aren't the kids in extracurriculars. They're the kids who are having trouble getting to school, tons of absences, struggling with their classes. They're financially struggling as well. Those are the kids that aren't in extracurriculars and the kids that won't be getting tested. This is a problem for multiple reasons. The first being, who does this really help? Mr. Schroller at the second forum said that he's gotten very positive feedback from other schools. But the thing is that a lot of schools participate in programs like this because it works. I say that with quotes because it doesn't help the kids who are actually struggling, but it looks great on paper for the school. This program works because by law, schools can only drug test students in extracurriculars. Those same students are already the kids who are at a low risk for drug use, so you're bound to get nothing but good results. These results completely neglect the kids who are actually at a higher risk for drug use, and nothing gets done for them with this program. We should also think about what our kids are already having to deal with. Think back to when y'all were in school. By implementing this program, we are essentially punishing and adding on to the stress that these students are already experiencing from college exams, daily homework, jobs, and those extracurriculars. These students are already being held to a higher standard, and rather than helping them, we are pointing our finger at them and labeling them as potential drug users. We talked about cost, and I think and hope we can all agree that students should not be using illegal substances. I also think we can agree that school funding should be used wisely. With the constant budget cuts to our public education system, I cannot understand why drug testing our children is a priority. I would like to point out that teachers do not get drug tested unless they're part of the staff that drives a school vehicle. This is very hypocritical because if our teachers who are getting paid don't have to drug test, then why should our children? I agree, it's not the school's role to be doing the parent's job. Y'all's role is to empower us with knowledge, give us those resources so we can make a decision on our kids. We want schools to teach our children to think critically, not to police them. Lastly, I would just like to ask the board members to consider that an important decision like this shouldn't be made without substantial evidence supporting the positive impact this has had on other districts. I want to see numbers, back data, something. Where's the data and research that backs up drug testing? Are all the programs that we already have in place to deter drug use failing, and that's why we've resorted to this? Since alcohol is undetectable with these drug tests, are we essentially saying that an alcohol problem is better than a drug problem? Additionally, just consider the public response that you've had to this at both of the forums. Like they've already stated, there has been tons of negative response to all of this. Plenty of parents and members of the district stood up and spoke against the change. The approval of this policy without solid research supporting it and without the support of the people it would affect would be a mistake. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alonso. We'll take those comments into consideration. Thank each one of you for sharing with us. Next is our public hearing on the proposed 2024-2025 budget presented by Ms. Engel.
Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Gilstrap, Dr. Odom, Board of Trustees. This evening, we are going to hold our public hearing on our 2024-2025 fiscal year 25 budget for Floor-to-Lice. Here we just have our vision and our mission, character, knowledge, confidence. Mission FISD is committed to the development of innovative lifelong learners who possess character traits to achieve personal and professional success. Again, we have our goals, which we reviewed already at the start of the meeting. So we're going to review the budget process. On April 25th, by statute, every year we receive the Wilson and Bexar County Appraisal District's preliminary values. We hold a board workshop. We have public notice published in the Wilson County News, and we hold a public hearing, which we're doing here tonight. We have the final budget approval, and then we have the approval of the tax rate for 2024, and that will be in September at our regular September board meeting on September the 9th. Here's just a copy of the proposed budget and proposed tax rate that was in the paper last week. Total tax rate history, this is just looking at our tax rate history from tax year 21 through tax year 23. You can see here, as we move through the 3 years, our tax rate has gone down by 22.76 cents over the last 3 years. Factors influencing the budget process. We're looking at 2024-2025 an enrollment of 4,100 students. That will give us an ADA of 3,720 if we maintain an attendance rate of 93%. This budget also does have raises for all returning employees of 1% raise for all staff plus targeted adjustments for identified positions. Here's just a look at our average daily attendance and enrollment history for the last 10 years. You can see we were running pretty attendance, 95, 96% there. Dipped a little bit to 95.1. Then of course we had COVID. And so we're slowly but surely coming back up. This past year we were at 92.8. Looking to go hopefully to 93% for this next year. Factors influencing the budget process. Tax year property values, we have preliminary value of a little over $1.8 billion there, a 6.24 increase over tax year 23 certified values. We're looking at a tax collection rate of 98%. Compressed tax rate, again, these are last year's rates. We will not have our new rates until August from TEA. So we're going to look at the 3 funds that the board approves, which is going to be the general fund, the food service or child nutrition fund, and the debt service funds. We'll look at revenues, appropriations, our debt obligations, and our tax rate history. So this is looking at our revenue for the general fund. We're looking at $13.9 million in local revenue, state revenue of $25.5 million, and federal revenue of just shy of $500,000 at $455,000. So we're looking at total revenue for our local budget of $39.895 million. Appropriations for the general fund, our expenditures, we're looking at instruction, $22.2 million, instructional and student support, about $5.5 million, administrative support services, $1.5 million, operations and student support services, $9.8, debt service, $195,000, and other operational costs of $598,000 for a total expenditure budget of $39,895,000. And great news, that is a balanced budget. Again, we had the board workshop 16 days ago, and we weren't looking that way, but we are a balanced budget. We're presenting a balanced budget this year, so we're very happy about that. Just looking at our fund balance status, our undesignated or available fund balance audited number as of last June 30th was $11.8 million. TEA recommends 3 months operating expenditures and fund balance, so at 9.4. So we do have a healthy fund balance. Looking at appropriations by general fund by object code, there we have payroll costs, which make up the majority of our budget at 78.6%. Professional and contracted services at 12.4%. Supplies and materials, 4.8%, operating expenses, 3.6%, debt service, very small at 0.5%, and capital outlay, again at 0.1%. Switching over to the next fund that the board adopts is the child nutrition or food service fund. We're looking at local revenue of $600,000, state revenue very small at $10,000, and federal revenue 1.9. So a total revenue of a little over $2.5 million for the child nutrition fund. Appropriations here, we're looking at operations and support services of a little over $3 million, debt service $2,700 for a total budget of $3,070,000. You will notice this is a deficit budget. Again, the child nutrition fund has a very, very healthy excess fund balance that TDA requires us to spend down, and that money can only be used on child nutrition related expenditures. We do have a per TDA of Texas Department of Agriculture, we must reduce the child fund balance. We do have an approved plan by them from February, so we're working on spending those things down and buying things for the cafeteria and doing things to improve our child nutrition. Looking at our debt obligations for this year, these are our series of bonds that we have outstanding. We've got principal at a little over $3 million that we have obligations for this year. Interest of $1.5 million for a total debt obligation payment this year out of our INS fund of a little over $4.5 million. Here you can see our tax rate history over the last 10 years. Again, it's decreased by 58.32 cents over the last 10 years. And that's total tax rate. So you can see your M&O, your INS. Again, M&O is strictly for maintenance and operations. INS is strictly for debt payments. So you add those two together, you get your total tax rate. Looking at our revenue for our debt service fund, we're looking at $4.4 million in local revenue, state revenues of $155,000 for a total revenue of a little over $4.5 million. Again, on our appropriation side, on our expenditure side, it is equal, a little over $4.5 million. This is revenue of combined funds we've got here. We've got our local revenue, our state revenue, and our federal revenue of all three of those combined funds together. Again, same with our appropriations. Our 24-25, our 24 and 25 beyond, what we're looking at, potential enrollment growth, property value growth, property tax legislation. Our 89th legislative session begins on January the 14th, 2025. Again, it'll be an interesting session to see what comes out of that and how it affects public schools. So looking at our timeline, July 25th, we will receive certified values from the local appraisal district. Again, these numbers are based on preliminary values, but by statute, they must give those to us have those to us by July 25th. August 5th, TEA provides a maximum compressed tax rate to us. And then September 9th at our regular board meeting, we will hold our tax rate hearing and our adoption. Thank you to everyone that is here tonight. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to entertain those this time.
I will say that the assumptions made for this proposed budget that we're looking at are pretty conservative as far as student growth, average daily attendance, and those driving factors. So there's a lot of buzz and a lot of talk about growth coming in and growth coming in. It is, there's no doubt. However, we're building our budget to slowly make that rise. We're not going to jump out there and take some chance on building the budget with money that's not realized yet.
Correct. Any questions? Any questions from the floor? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Engel. We will now continue with our reports and updates. Dr. Gilstrap, and I'll give the superintendent.
Yes, Dr. Odom, thank you, sir. Board members, just want to say thank you to those board members that were able to go to our TASB Summer Leadership Institute a couple of weeks ago. It was really a great opportunity to hear some outstanding speakers, receive some information on some very relevant topics around the state, as well as networking with some board members from all over the state. It's always good to be there and share stories and information with other districts. There were some great speakers there. One of them, by the name of Jamie Vollmer, really had a very interesting story. He is a former businessman who had a business. He wound up selling that business, and now he's advocating for public education. But it's his story about how he realized running a school is not like running a business. There are some factors to it. Obviously, we just got to talking about budget, but whenever it comes to educating kids and the day-to-day things that take place in school, really aren't run like a business, and if we do, the kids fall between the cracks. So it was really interesting to hear him talk, as well as all the others. Provided in the board packet this evening is a calendar for board meetings for the 24-25 year. Per policy, regular board meetings will be held the first Monday at 6:30. There are 2 exceptions to that. One of them is in September due to Labor Day. The other one is in November. The first Monday of the month falls before the election in November, so we're going to move that to the second Monday so that we can canvass that election and be in compliance with that requirement. Encourage everyone to mark your calendars for these board meetings. These are all of our regular board meetings. A list of current professional openings is also provided in your board packet, just to kind of keep you informed of some of the positions that we do have and that we are looking for. One of the things I also did not mention just a while ago, we do also have our calendar of topics. Our board members' board calendar is listed there as well. That is a list of typical items that are on routine agenda. That way we're ensuring we're covering everything on an annual basis.
That's something new, isn't it?
No, we've been doing that. We've been doing that. We update it every year. So you'll see those changes on there. We're in the process of posting information regarding the 24 board election. Just a few reminders that district positions 1, 4, and 7 are up. Applications are open July the 20th through August the 19th by 5 o'clock is the filing deadline. Election day will be May the 5th. Our maintenance department continues to do their summer works, completing a lot of projects with all of the kids and staff out of the building. It's their opportunity to get in and not only do some deep cleaning, but to complete some of our preventative maintenance projects to make sure we're ready to go for the first day of school. So I want to recognize them and thank them for all of their hard work this summer. Don't forget to mark your calendars. On Thursday, July the 25th, we will have our board admin dinner at Mr. Shodrock's house. So thank you, Mr. Shodrock, for hosting us. That'll be a great opportunity to kick off our new school year as we get to spend some time with our administrators and our board and some time of fellowship and get to know one another. Per policy DC local, beginning April 1st through August 31st, the board does pass along, delegate to the superintendent all hiring authority, but we do provide to you a list of contract employees that have been offered contracts in the recent weeks. Again, that is in order to keep competitive. So if we're interviewing a candidate, we like them, they go to another district the next day and interview, and that district's able to hand them a contract, and we're having to wait, we're going to list out on some great candidates. And so that just keeps us very competitive in the job market. One thing that we recently found was that Alamo College has recently announced a change in their spring break. And this just came up. So we are reviewing our calendar to see how that's going to affect us. We typically try to mirror Alamo College because we do have kids that go there during the school day for some of their advanced academies. And if our spring breaks are different, our kids are going to have to go to school during our spring break. And then vice versa, whenever we're at school, they're going to be having spring break there. So it throws their calendars and schedules off. So we're going to be reviewing that. As we look at other districts around us, it's really kind of spotted between 2 different weeks in March. But we apologize, but if that needs to come to the board, then we'll bring that to you. But we're reviewing that. We just recently found that out. There's also a list of events of upcoming, just some things to make sure you have on your calendars. Back to School Bash, August the 7th at 6 o'clock. That'll be at the high school. We're also going to have our district convocation on Friday the 9th, so I invite all the board members to be there for that along with all of our staff. And then obviously our first day of school will be Wednesday, August the 14th. It'll be here before you know it. So we'll be ready to go. Does anyone have any questions? All right.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Gilstrap. Now we will have the DIP formative review given by Dr. Wade.
Good evening, President Odom, Dr. Gilstrap, board members. Tonight, I will be providing you a short summary of the summative review of our district improvement plan for this last year of 2023-24. The district, as you well know, has 4 goals which drive our district improvement plan. Those goals are also the goals of our strategic plan. So when we review our district improvement plan, we're also reviewing our strategic plan. The district and campus leadership evaluated our progress in June and completed a summative review for each performance objective. You have the complete summative review in your board packet, but I will only be providing an overview of the status of meeting those goals. So for 23-24, the FISD had a total of 4 goals and 14 performance objectives. The performance objectives are summatively evaluated as either exceeded, meets, significant progress, some progress, no progress. Of those 14 objectives, we met 57% or 8 of those objectives and had significant progress on the remaining, and no progress or no ratings and some progress, no progress. So that's good news, right? In the final quarter of our review, the strategies are also evaluated as whether we accomplished them, whether they need to be continued or modified, or whether they need to be discontinued. So of the 30 strategies that we identified this past year, 70% of them were accomplished, and 27% were identified as to be either continued or modified for next year, and 3% were discontinued. That's one strategy, and that relates to some ESSER-funded positions that we could not put into our budget. So that's about our behavior specialists at the elementary. The 8 strategies that are going to be continued include things like providing supports for behavior in our multi-tiered systems of support, providing supports to get students grade level ready for reading and math, and supports for students receiving special education services, continuing our implementation of our learner center environment with our Floresville ISD learning experience, and business and community input. So what's next? The district began in January and March, believe it or not, evaluating data to see what we needed to do for this next school year. And we developed a draft district improvement plan for next school year last month and this month. We got input from our district education improvement committee on May the 14th, and our district and campus leaders are reviewing the DIP strategies one goal at a time this month in June. So I will have the recommendation for the district improvement plan for 2024-25 at the August board meeting. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have.
All right, our last report will be the special programs report presented also by Dr. Wood.
Thank you, Dr. Odom. Tonight we're going to share a brief summary of 3 of our special programs. I will be sharing about our gifted and talented program. Alejandro Guzman, our bilingual ESL specialist and coach, will provide an update on our bilingual education program. And then finally, Leanne Marshall, our CTE coordinator, will share an overview of this year's CTE program. For the year 2023-24, FISD provided gifted and talented services to a total of 319 identified students. That represents 7.9% of our population. The Texas Education Agency recommends that the percentage be somewhere between 4 and 7%, so we are well above the percentage to identify and provide services. I'm also providing a few pictures just of the spring Gifted and Talent showcases that were held across the district at campuses. One of the areas that we have been working on is the demographic population of our identified gifted and talented students. One way we address that equitable participation is a universal screening of all students in one grade level, utilizing an online assessment to try to eliminate bias. But we look at our demographic distribution every year, and this year we're noticing that there's an area of growth that we have in our African American and Hispanic student populations. According to the Texas State Plan for Gifted and Talented Students, programs should mirror the demographic distribution of the district within 80%. So the targets that you see over there are 80% of the target, because that's the minimum requirement. So we should have 174 Hispanic students. We have 159, it's not too far off. And we should have 3 African American students. We have 2. However, as I said, we are working and have improved this distribution since we started that universal screening and online assessment. So, as I said, part of that equitable distribution of services is to do a universal screening. So every spring, we screen every kindergarten student, 300 so. That's a critical component of an effective program. The students who score in the top 20% of their peer groups are automatically referred for additional testing. At that point, we have to get parent consent to do testing. This chart shows the breakdown of the number of kindergarten students who were screened, tested, and identified. This year, we identified 13 kindergarten students for GT services compared to 14 students we identified last year. We also have the opportunity for any student in grades 1 through 12 to be referred for GT testing. Referrals can be made by teachers, parents, counselors, administrators, and other community. This year, 76 students were referred for testing and 26 were identified to receive gifted and talented services. This is compared to 81 students tested last year with 20 being identified. So we identified 6 more from last year. We're super excited about the opportunity to improve our gifted and talented program, and one of the areas we're going to look at is the updates to the Texas state plan and see if there's any alignment that we need. And then another area we're considering is universal screening in a different grade level. Sometimes people think kindergarten, it's developmentally challenging to screen, so we're talking about that as a possibility as well. Okay. Any questions about the gifted and talented program? Okay, next I'm going to invite Alejandro Guzman to come up to talk about the bilingual program.
Good evening, Dr. Gilstrap, Board President, and Board members. My name is Alejandro Guzman. I am the proud bilingual ESL specialist and coach. I am excited to share all of our updates and as well as our student accomplishments we've had this year. Our bilingual program consists of our dual language at our elementaries, and we are transitioning into a one-way dual language model, starting at our pre-K and kindergarten for our 24-25 school year. We also have an ESL program offered in both our elementary and secondary campuses. We have seen an increase in the number of emergent bilinguals this year, as well as an increase in the percentage of students in our total population. Our percentage of emergent bilinguals has increased from 9.35% as of last year to 9.55% this year. Emergent bilingual students generate specific funding in Title III and bilingual ESL allotment. So funding has increased with the increase of our emergent bilingual population. Parent denials do not generate any funding. We currently have 144 emergent bilingual students in our dual language program at our elementary campuses, and 227 students receiving English as a second language support in our elementaries and secondary levels. We have 103 students receiving ESL support at our high school and 69 students at the middle school. This year, we did not apply for a waiver as we are fully staffed. We have a total of 13 parent denials this year.
Being fully staffed and not having to file the waiver was
Yes.
big. That's the first time in all.
Here we can look at our bilingual and ESL enrollment by each grade level. We can see that we have 31 fifth graders in the dual language program, as we now offer 5th grade in both campuses, Floresville South and Floresville North. We also have a total of 9 ESL students, 8 being content-based and 1 being pull out in 5th grade. These are some of the highlights that I wanted to share regarding our students in our program. What has been different this year and what we've accomplished. We've had coaching and training support from our new bilingual coach, which It's me. We've had a part-time bilingual interventionists, which have helped from pre-K all the way to 5th grade. We have three middle school students that participated in the Close-Up Foundation in Austin, where they learned about politics, where they learned about the Capitol and about other important aspects of our state. 25 high school students were reclassified from being emergent bilinguals to being English proficient students. So we did have a great amount, and we're very excited, and we are very proud of them. 19 students participated in our pre-K kinder summer school at North Elementary. So students were having fun and learning at the same time. 2 elementary students participated in our local spelling bee. One in middle school and another student in the middle school, and they went to and participated in the region 20, where they both participated and went too far. Unfortunately they didn't win, but they had a great time and they participated. We had a great attendance at our 2 emergent bilingual meetings, where we invited our emergent families. Parents came and listened to the community and community resources and information that were given to them. Floresville South Elementary and Floresville North Elementary had different showcases, such as multicultural clubs and other events, bringing in our cultural groups, which were very successful. So we are very proud of all of our students and teachers who have been part of all this. Any questions?
All great work. Great job.
Yes, very good. Here's Miss Leanne Marshall.
That's okay.
Okay, good evening, Dr. Gilstrap, Dr. Odom, and school board members. Thank you for having me here this evening to present information on our CTE program and the accomplishments for this year. Just a little overview of our CTE program. Currently, FISD has 14 programs of study within 9 career clusters that are shown here. We also offer a career explorations course at FMS, which all 8th graders take unless they're enrolled in Algebra 1. And we also have a STEM course for elective credit at the middle school as well. Refreshed programs of study will be implemented in the 24-25 school year. So what does that mean for us? Mainly a lot of that is name changes to our programs of study, and the coursework for the coherent sequence will remain the same. So as noted here, applied agricultural engineering will be called agricultural technology and mechanical systems next year. Graphic design and multimedia arts will be called graphic design and interactive media. There will not be a STEM career cluster next year. The state is redesigning that, so the cybersecurity program will actually be moved out of the STEM cluster and under the information technology area. Automotive will be called automotive and collision repair, and the health science career cluster for healthcare diagnostics and healthcare therapeutics is now going to be combined. And so it will be called diagnostic and therapeutic services, while the exercise, science, and wellness will be renamed to exercise, science, wellness, and restoration. So a lot of name changes going on there. It is a mouthful, lots of long names. What this also means for us is the number of programs will actually be reduced because of some of those consolidations. One of the things we also are working towards is the addition of courses to begin a marketing and sales program under our business career cluster. Here you will see enrollment by career cluster. Our enrollment in our CTE programs is strong across all the boards. We are also seeing growth trends for 2 years in a row for culinary. And you'll see the growth trends noted by an asterisk. So if there's an asterisk by there, then they have improved in enrollment from the previous year. And then we are seeing 3 years of growth, particularly in the welding and automotive areas. These are the goals that we really focused on this year, implementing IBCs across all of our programs of study. We wanted to review our CCMR data more closely for our 12th grade students, as well as our IBC tracking so that we could get more students earning those credentials. We also looked at our teacher professional development and their particular certification attainment, because we wanted them to also be certified in the IBCs that their students were getting. And then we also looked at career and technical student organizations, CTSOs, and addition and development of those. So I will focus some attention on each of these goals and what we accomplished under each of them. So this slide presents information about industry-based certifications and our CCMR data, which I'm very excited about. Our teachers put in a lot of hard work in regards to this area. You'll see that we had 117 more IBCs attempted this school year, and resulting in 94 additional IBCs being earned from the previous year. You will also see in the second chart where we were doing some of our focused attention on our 12th grade students, and we saw a 20% gain in the number of graduates this year obtaining their CCMR point. So it was an increase from 56.2% from last year to 76% of our seniors getting their CCMR point. And then in regards to where their CCMR points were coming from, when you're looking at our CTE realm, 50% of that came from CTE, which was an increase of 26 percentage points from the year before. And I do tell my CTE team, y'all are the game changers. Y'all are the ones that are gonna make the difference in our CCMR rating, our accountability rating here at the high school. The next slide looks at all of our IBCs. I talked to you a little bit about how we focused attention on trying to have industry-based certifications that get across all of our programs of study. We administered 20 different IBCs this year, 7 of which were completely brand new to us. And so those were highlighted in the pink color up there. We had a 64% pass rate with 438 IBCs earned by students across all of our programs of study, which is a huge accomplishment. The last few columns of the chart compare the passing percentage from last year to this year on the IBCs administered. And of course, we only had comparison data for 13 of those IBCs since 7 of them were new. And of those 13, 8 had either positive gains or remained the same passing percentage from the previous year. And then 5 of them did have some declines, which are noted in the yellow and red highlights. One of our goals, again, was focused on our teachers obtaining certifications, the same certifications that their students would be sitting for. And so this particular slide highlights 4 of our teachers who actually went out there, worked hard to gain certifications. So we had Mr. Michael Billings, who gained his AWS welder instructor slash certifier. So he can have students in his Ag Fab classes or Ag Met classes also sit for a welding certification, and that is aligned with his program of study. Mr. Brendan Cavazos Flood, he participated in the We Teach Cyber symposium, and that was through the UT Austin University, and he actually won an award. It was actually the first inaugural award that they gave out this year, which was the 2024 Teacher, the Changemaker Award, which was really neat, and he earned certifications for CompTIA in ITF Fundamentals, Network Plus, and Security Plus. Mr. Robert Johnson, he was a brand new teacher this last year and has done a fabulous job for us in our AV area. He earned his Adobe Premiere Pro certification. And then Ms. Shelley Geiselhart, who's now Davidson, got her CMA, which was nationally recognized certified medical assistant. This summer, we will actually have a few more teachers studying and working towards certifications. Mr. Davidson is working on his Adobe Photoshop. Mr. Jason LaFrance will work on his ServSafe, and then Mr. Leonard Soto, he's going to work on some ASE certifications for automotive. And so all of those are taking place now, and they're working towards them between now and the next school year. Lastly, I talked to you about, one of our goals was about CTSOs, which provide our students additional practice in the skills that they're learning in the classroom. This year, we added the HOSA program, which is for our health science students. And then Mr. Soto also formed the automotive team for the ACE race. And they competed in April. I'm not sure if you're aware of their results, but we were very proud of them. They competed in the rookie class. They did place 5 out of 6 teams, but they were only 9 laps away from the first place team. And had they not had a mechanical breakdown, which took them out of the race for 15 minutes, he says they would have taken first place. So we'll look forward to seeing what those results will be in the next year. And then on the horizon, Mr. LaFrance is very excited because he is working hard to implement a barbecue team this next year. So hopefully some of y'all will be our taste testers when they get on board and doing that. If we can count on you for that, hopefully so. But anyhow, we've had great progress to our goals this past year. We're excited about where we are, and it's going to propel us to where we're going in the future. This next year, these are some of the things we want to continue to look at. Again, CTSOs. We want to continue building upon those. We have the IBCs in place now. The next focus is to turn on those student competitions, the student skills, build upon those and get those CTSOs underway. And we want to recognize our students for high achievements within the CTSOs. When they go on and compete at the state level or the national level, we want to recognize them for that. So coming up with our policies and procedures of what that's going to look like as well. Teachers are working on their certifications towards those IBCs. We want to increase our passing percentages. That's why we're monitoring that so that we can see how much we're improving. Are we learning from what we are doing this year, making improvements upon it within our instruction to drive the scores up? And then we also want to explore those possibilities for additional programs of study as well as partnerships for our practicums so that our students can get that hands-on work-based learning experience. So that was a lot in a short amount of time. So do you have any questions for me in regards to CTE?
So is the program helping our students who graduate enter the workforce in a more of a better position than we were before?
Yes, so our students leave with a certification and they can take that certificate to places of employment and say, hey, I already have these credentials. For instance, our health science program students, 100% of those students passed the nationally recognized CMA, the Certified Medical Assistant. So we actually started, we had the Texas Workforce Commission come over, our local branch here. They met with our students, talked to them about opportunities. They worked with us in regards to Conley Memorial Medical Center. And in affiliation with them, we're working towards getting some of our students placed over there in their work learning, I think it's called Learn to Earn program, their YES program for the summer for their youth empowerment program. And they are actually going to place some students there. It's paid for by the Texas Workforce Commission, but then it provides opportunities for them to get hired once their summer internship is complete. So it's really neat opportunity. We actually, our education and training program, last year I reported that we had 1 student get hired over at South Elementary. I believe we have 2 this year that have been hired from our program of study as well, who they were able to apply right at the end of the year and they're onboarded onto our staff now. So, I mean, this is wonderful what we're doing, how we're taking this, growing our programs, getting these credentials in students' hands, and then they can turn it around and be marketable.
That's great.
Any other questions?
Just make sure you tell us with the barbecue tasting.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Marshall.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is item number 4, action items. First action item is the consent agenda. Dr. Gilstrap.
Board members, we have 2 items included on the consent agenda. We have the minutes from our regular meeting on June the 3rd, as well as minutes from our budget workshop on June the 10th. If there's no questions, administration recommends the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda as printed by administration. Do we have a second?
A second.
Ms. Reed seconds. Any further questions? All in favor of accepting the consent agenda, let me know by raising your hand. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Our next item is to consider approval of local policy update FNF local regarding random student drug testing. I'll now pass it over to Dr. Gilstrap.
Board members, included in your packet is an update to policy FNF local, which would set in place a random student drug testing program for certain identified students. We presented this to our policy committee a few months back. They reviewed that and gave us some guidance. We've taken that into consideration. To be clear, the board would be voting on the policy. The policy would set in place and direct that a program be developed. And then, of course, the program is what Mr. Schroller has been talking about in some of our presentations that we've done. So I do want to call up Mr. Schroller if he wants to give a little brief presentation about the specifics of the program that we would be implementing.
Good evening, Superintendent of Schools, Board President, Board of Trustees. Tonight, I will be presenting a brief report on the proposed random student drug testing program. Last school year, a 12-member district committee met multiple times to develop the guidelines for this proposal. The committee reached out to other area school districts that have implemented similar programs to gather feedback on their experiences, including challenges faced, lessons learned, and adjustments made over time to improve their programs. The district is deeply committed to maintaining a safe, secure, and healthy environment for all of our students. Implementing a drug testing policy is an additional measure to protect our students. The aim of this program is to foster a drug-free environment by being proactive rather than reactive, and to deter students of illegal drug use. It focuses on prevention, counseling, and support services for those who test positive, providing students with a credible way to resist peer pressure. Regarding testing procedures, a minimum of 25 students will be randomly tested at least twice per semester throughout the school year using an 8-panel drug test. This applies to students in grades 7 through 12 who participate in the following: UIL competitions, athletics, extra co-curricular activities, student activities in organizations, and or have a permit to drive and or park on campus. The district, Floresville ISD, will not be involved in the student selection process. Selected students will be randomly pulled from class using student identification numbers, not individual names, for confidentiality purposes through a double-blind random numeric generator software program. Testing will occur in a designated area on campus. The why is to ensure integrity, privacy, and confidentiality. Pinnacle Medical Management will conduct the testing with a medical review officer and or a certified collector to facilitate and collect samples. Testing will be done by a urinalysis using accepted immunological screening procedures because it is accurate and reliable. Regarding informed consent, before a student can participate, both the student and parent must sign a consent form along with signing the student-parent handbook that we develop each year, agreeing to adhere to the rules and procedures of the program. Information pertaining to random student drug testing will be disseminated through extra co-curricular parent meetings and at all orientations, and will be posted on our district website. Positive student test results will lead to a range of consequences and student support services, along with a conference with the student and the student's parent an administrator, and along with the coach or sponsor of the extracurricular activity to discuss the positive test result, the consequences, and the support systems the district will put in place. For a first positive test result, the student will be suspended from games, any and all performances, and other events for 15 instructional days. A second offense results in a 30-day suspension, and a third offense leads to a 90-day suspension and/or the remainder of the academic school year. A fourth offense will result in the student's dismissal from all Floresville ISD extracurricular or UIL sponsored activities for the remainder of their secondary school career. Each of these offenses will also result in the loss of parking privileges until the suspension is over and the student has completed the district's required substance abuse counseling. That's one of our support measures. Any student who tests positive at any time will be retested at the next random testing date. It is important to note that positive test results are cumulative, meaning should a student test positive in 7th grade and then again test positive in 9th grade, that student that tests positive for the second time in 9th grade, that is his or her second offense. So what does that mean? The offense for a positive test result does not reset to 0 at the beginning of each academic school year. Once a child has 4, they're removed from the program's organization stuff for the entirety of their secondary school career. Regarding the requirement to complete substance abuse counseling, students shall attend a drug education awareness training session through the school district or opt for a virtual or in-person counseling session with TCHAT, both provided at no cost to the student and the student's parent. Alternatively, parents may hire a private licensed professional counselor at their own expense. We just need to see the documentation and the certification of completion. There is an appeal process. During this time, the student will remain suspended from the extracurricular activity and their parking privileges will be revoked until the appeal's outcome is determined. The district has allocated $5,000 for random drug testing for this upcoming school year. Each individual test costs $34, and we plan to test a minimum of 100 students. Lastly, this program is academically non-punitive, meaning positive test results do not affect a student's grades, academic standing, or enrollment status. This ensures that that student or those students can continue their education without academic penalties.
Thank you, Mr. Schroller.
Yes, sir.
Again, board members, what's before the board is approval of the policy update, which would set the requirement for such a program into place. And this right here would be the program that we would go to. This would be included in the student handbook every year, which students and parents would have to sign off on.
That's correct.
So, if there are any questions, we'll be glad to answer those or concerns.
What's the total cost, Dr. Gilstrap and Mr. Schroller, of this?
Well, Mr. Schroller indicated it's $34 per test,
Okay,
and
so
that does include the travel cost and anything like that.
That is correct. That's $34 at a minimum of $100, $3,400. One thing I did fail to mention is should there be a retester, that would also add, to that. But we've allocated $5,000 for that. But
Okay. Total for the.
total, yes, sir. Don't plan on spending that, but
And from what I read, it appears there's 2 samples taken, so in case there's a rebuttal,
yes, sir.
they have the same sample, they'll resample again
That is correct.
to determine if it's a second deposit or not. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Shadrach.
Who's going to oversee this program?
It is a testing entity that most of the school districts around here have used. They're proven, they've been around for a long time. That testing entity is called Pinnacle Medical Management.
As far as within the district.
Oh, you're saying within the district, who's going to supervise it on campuses? It will be our campus administrators but again, they will be there to get the student there, be with that student at all times, but the actual testing, the MRO and or the collection officer from Pinnacle Medical Management will be the one facilitating the process.
Do these administrators, they're given guidelines of what they can and cannot do? I don't know if they have.
Yes,
Okay.
the guidelines would be placed in place in connection with the testing organization.
All right, thank you.
A successful year would be 0 positive tests. That's the purpose of this, is to advocate for doing something as an intervention instead of reactive, and giving that student a reason to say no is really big. So we want to make sure that we're giving that opportunity to those kids. As I said, a great year would be zero positives. It's just like we have a drug dog now that comes periodically, and a successful trip, a day for the drug dog is 0 hits. So that's what we want.
I think you mentioned that parents have a choice. If they do not sign off on that, what happens to that student? I mean, well, they have a
The
choice.
parent and the student will have to sign to be allowed to participate in that sport, that co-curricular, the student organization. Shall they not, they will not be allowed to participate.
So
They must sign off and agree to all the conditions we have set in place. Yes, sir.
And denial to take the test is considered a positive response.
Yes, sir. That is correct. We're really just trying to protect our kids, boy.
And then if there is a positive and either the child or the family declines to take the counseling, what's the next step?
Yeah, if there's a decline, we will continue to try to encourage them to do that. That's our job. We want to educate the parents as well, but they have to complete that support, which is that counseling. And if they don't do that, then again, fortunately, they're not allowed to participate in.
But they're not able to participate in competition events. They're still eligible to attend practice.
Yes, that is correct. Yep. We still want them to be part of the program, but they just can't.
How many school districts in our area participate in this drug testing program?
I spoke to everyone in Wilson County. Every school district in Wilson County participates in, as they have some type of process for random student drug testing, and neighboring districts too. I did speak very closely with East Central, who's been doing it since 2006. And they gave us a lot of information, and we're going to use this data to drive future decisions too for our district. Italia is also another district. So
It's across the state.
It really is.
This is very common to have a practice like this in districts that I've been at since I was coaching 25 years ago. It's been a practice in districts.
Even your kids that are going to your weightlifting, once they powerlifting, once they get to the state level, they get drug tested at that point. So.
Well, I see this as I don't see this as a negative personally, but a very strong positive, because we're trying to protect our students. And part of our goal as board members is to be part of that and protect the students. And I think you mentioned that safety word there, and that, I think that sums it up: safety and protection for our students, and also to help those who are struggling. You know, I'm very pro in helping students that are struggling with those things, in hopes that we can help them to get the help they need and to be good citizens, right? That's our goal, is for the students. And I think you mentioned that in your report.
Are there any other questions?
Are we allowed to make questions?
Are we allowed to ask questions?
No, ma'am. If no other questions by the board members, administration recommends the board approve the update to policy F&F local as presented to implement the random student drug testing program.
Do we have a motion to accept that?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Okay, Mr. Lewis makes the motion to accept it. I will second that. Any further questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor of accepting and placing this policy in place, let me know by raising your hand. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, board members.
Thank
All right.
you, board members. Yes, sir.
Now we'll consider approval of the modified schedule for state assessment testing days, waiver by Dr. Wade.
Good evening again, Board. The state allows the district to file a waiver to modify the scheduled classes on state testing days during a school year to reduce interruptions. Students who are not being tested still have to meet the minimum 2-hour and 4-hour requirement for us to get funding. The district is allowed to request a waiver for 3 consecutive years. This is the last year of the last waiver that we have had for the last 3 years. So we need to modify our schedule to allow students that are not testing to come in late on certain testing days, because it takes many staff members to administer the test, which changes us in supervision for the rest of the students. Allowing them to come in late provides, frees up space for testing, and also make sure we have enough staff to monitor testing. The waiver we're requesting tonight would cover the next 3 years, beginning 24-25 through 26-27. Are there any questions? No questions. Administration recommends the board approve the submission of the TEA waiver to modify the schedule for assessment testing days.
We have a motion to accept the administration's recommendation. Okay, Mr. Schottenbach makes the motion, second. Mr. Clear, any further questions or discussion? Okay, in favor of the recommendation of the administration, let me know by raising your hand. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Wade. Next, we will consider approval of the final budget amendment for 23-24 by Ms. Engel.
Good evening once again, Dr. Odom, Dr. Gilstrap, and members of the board. In your packet this evening, you have a final budget amendment for the 23-24 school year. Again, this is something we bring to you every year to move some funds between function, as that's how you approve the budget every year. With final payments coming out or going out the beginning of July, we just need to do this to move it to be in compliance with function regulations. So you have the budget amendment there. You can see the revenue and the expenditure. Again, they're equal. So does anybody have any questions on that?
What was that on the increase?
For which one?
Yeah.
For the revenue?
Yeah, for revenue.
The state revenue, again, we came in with our values there. We were able to recognize local values instead of state values, so that gave us more local revenue. And again, when we adopted the budget last year, the $100,000 homestead exemption wasn't there, so that shifted. That's where you see the shift between the local revenue and the state revenue.
Thank you.
So, yes, sir. Any other questions? If there are none, then administration recommends the board approve the FISD 23-24 final budget amendment as presented.
We have a motion to accept the administration's recommendation. Mr. Moots, we have a second. Mr. Schottenbach, any further questions or discussion? All in favor of accepting the administration's recommendation concerning the budget, let me know by raising your hand. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Engel. Now,
Thank you
we'll
very
consider
much.
approval of the 24-25 budget and compensation plan as well.
The Board of Trustees is required to approve the 24-25 budget at the function level by June 30th, 2024, so that we can commence business on July 1st for our new fiscal year. The budget at the function level is being presented to you this evening, as well as we held our public hearing for public comments. This is the budget, the big paper. See everybody. So I will let you look at that. You can see the bottom. If you look at the 24-25 column in the general fund, you can see that it is a balanced budget. Food service, again, you can see that $500,000 there to spend down that. Debt service, the third column, is a balanced budget, and then the last 3 columns are just a combination of those 3 funds that the board does approve. Does anybody have any questions on that to begin with? Yes, sir.
The biggest variance here is on student transportation.
Right, because we bought some buses this past year that we don't have in the budget this year.
That was, correct me if I'm wrong, we shifted that money over.
Right, we did a budget amendment in
approved it.
November, I believe,
Yeah.
to move that out. Yeah.
Everything else good. That was the
Yes.
the biggest number out
Yes,
there.
sir.
I asked the same question. You had to refresh my memory.
If there's no questions on, any other questions on budget, I will turn it over to Mrs. Stonish to review the compensation plan.
Hi. Good evening, Dr. Odom, Dr. Gilstrap, and Board of Trustees. You have a previously provided copy there of the compensation plan, but just to go over and review some of the highlights of that.
We did, ordered by the board, we did do a TASB salary study. So rather than highlighting this entire compensation plan, because everything has changed, I'll just go over the highlights with you. We did add some verbiage to provide one-time salary increases. These would be what would commonly referred to in the past as like a retention bonus. Before any of those one-time salary increases were given to employees, they would first be presented to the board. But by putting this verbiage in the compensation plan before the employee's first day of work, it allows us to potentially credit their TRS accounts as well. So we will get y'all more information if we plan on doing one of those, or if the district is able to during the school year.
Provided the opportunity.
Provided the opportunity.
Increased revenue.
Yes. Also, the minimum, midpoints, and maximums for all of our 4 main pay grades have been increased. So the minimum starting pays have increased for every single position, as well as a 1% GPI, that's general pay increase, off of the midpoint for all staff. That's what's being proposed. Also, we're proposing targeted adjustments for specific positions that have been identified as off the market rate. So that's not all positions, but those positions that just don't make us competitive in the market. There's also a very slight increase to our game workers' pay rates. And lastly, we're proposing an increase to our insurance contributions just as an added benefit to staff, because as expected, the insurance rates are increasing for our medical insurance. Are there any questions on the compensation plan?
So the plan presented is 1% raise at midpoint, and that's what's been included in the budget to present a balanced income.
Yes.
And there again, correcting some of those outliers based on the compensation.
Yes, those targeted and specific
So I will say that the TASB salary study, it's very valuable. It's been a number of years since it's been done, which you don't need to do one every year, you need to do one periodically. Because over those 2, 3, 4 years, you start to get out of whack with the market. In particular, it's not necessarily some of our educator positions, it's some of our, whenever I say market, it may be welders that we hire in the district or a carpenter, whereas we're competing with other private industries that we don't connect with to make sure we're keeping on the market. So thank you for that, Ms. Dodge.
Are there any further questions? Okay, I'll turn it back over to Ms. Engel.
Any other questions on budget or compensation plan from the board? If not, administration recommends the board approve the 2024-2025 budget and compensation plan as presented.
Do we have a motion to accept that plan?
I move to accept administration's recommendation.
Clear makes the motion, Ms. Reed makes a second. Any further questions? All in favor of accepting the budget, raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Engel, Ms. Donish. Thank you and by the way, thank you for all your work. I know y'all been through a lot of stressful.
It's been a little bit of a roller coaster.
It's been a roller coaster, but we want to thank you for your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say thank you for that, Dr. to Gilstrap on the state values.
Yes.
That was a
Yes.
major score for the district.
For sure.
Especially the past 16 days ago.
Yes.
I waited until I got those numbers last Wednesday.
We appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next, we'll consider approval of the Discipline Alternative Education Program and local agreement with participating ISDs for the 24-25 school year, also by Ms. Engel.
Yes, sir. In the earlier June meeting, I brought you Fall City and Potes agreements for the DAEP. This month we have Kennedy's. It's the same as the other two. It's just this one's for Kennedy. We're still lacking Karn City. We're having a bit of an issue connecting with Karn City. But hopefully we will have that one soon. So any questions on that?
Say hopefully, it'll be their problem.
Yeah, it'll be their problem if we don't, yes. Any questions? If not, administration recommends the board approve the Disciplinary Alternative Education Program, DAEP interlocal agreement with Kennedy ISD for the 24-25 school year as presented.
We have a motion to accept that. Mr. Moots makes the motion, seconded by Mr. Shabla. Any further questions? Accept the administration's recommendation. Let me know by raising your hand. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very
Ms.
much.
Andrews. Our last item is to consider acceptance of 4 vehicles from Pecos, Barstow, Toya, ISD by Mr. Schroeder.
Good evening again. Due to the current state of school funding, our succession plan of adding new school buses to our current existing fleet has been put on hold. However, Pecos, Barstow, Toya ISD has allowed us to move forward in our succession plan by providing FISD an opportunity to accept 4 buses. Although not new vehicles, they are in relatively good working condition, relatively low in mileage, and the cost of acquisition of these 4 vehicles is 0 cost to the district. These vehicles will be used to transport students and staff daily to and from school events. The acceptance of these vehicles will allow the district to improve our fleet along with meeting our district needs. The list below that I believe you have in front of you includes the vehicles we will accept. It's a 2012 Thomas bus, a 2015 Thomas bus, another 2015 Thomas bus, and a 2007 Bluebird. Are there any questions that I'd be happy to entertain?
Hold on.
More great news.
Just
Do we have them here already?
We do. Thanks to Gabe and his team. They make the long haul.
I think they had an overnight trip.
Yes, they did.
Yes. We did send to them a little gift, some things from Floresville, just a kind of a piece of Floresville out in West Texas. They're a great district with great leadership. Their board there has taken steps to assist other districts that may be in need. They've got the opportunity to replenish their fleet on a more regular basis. Can I say it that way?
Yes.
They're turning around and being able to dispose of buses that are in great shape. I mean, we're talking 2015 with 60,000 miles on it, and we're running them until they got 250,000.
We're hoping they like old Annie's peanut brittle.
They got a lot of things from Floresville just as appreciation.
So if there are no further questions, administration recommends the board approve the acceptance of 4 vehicles from Pecos, Barstow, Toya ISD as presented.
I make the motion to accept the administration recommendation.
I
Mr.
second.
Moots seconds it. Do we have any further questions? Yeah, Mr. Moots, Any further questions? Okay. There being none, all in favor of accepting these wonderful vehicles, let me know by raising your hand.
Thank you, Board of Trustees.
5-0. All right. We've now concluded our agenda for this meeting. Is there any further business? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned at 7:53 p.m. Thank you.